Welcome to I Am Well podcast. I am your host, Gemma, a nutritionist and mindset coach passionate about all things health and wellness. I'm going to take you on a journey to discovering what health means for you and how to create a life you love living. I'm on a mission to uplift those who feel overwhelmed with what it means to be healthy, reminding you, my listeners, that nutrition is only one aspect of health, and empower you to live your best life on your terms. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to I Am Well podcast. How is everyone going? I hope you're all having a wonderful start to your week. We are in our, This is the fourth week of balance, coming up to the fifth week now, which is just insane. I think I must be saying this every episode, but come on, is anyone else feeling it? How fast is this year going? I know we say it every year, but I swear this year is just flying. We are already up to August, and I'm just like, wow, there's so much more to get done within this year, and I'm really excited, especially for the I Am Well business. You're going to see lots more coming. I am actually working on at the moment a little food eating guide, with a couple of recipes. So how to eat within your fasting lifestyle. I'm sort of trying to track what I'm eating during this time so that then I can write down the recipes and create a little guide for those who want to do this lifestyle, but they're very confused about what to eat in those certain times of eating, like the ketobiotic styles of eating versus the hormone feasting style of eating. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. It should be ready, I'm hoping, by the end of next week. So stay tuned for that, because I will be announcing on how you can get your hands on that. But yes, other than that, there is also a new collab coming with my dear friend Gabby, who is a wellness coach. So more details of that will be coming end of August, start of September. So I'm really excited to talk more on that. That's all I can say for now. I can't really give much more details than that at the moment. And then balance is coming back next year. But if you're someone that is, you had high hopes for this year and you did set those New Year's resolutions for your health goals and you're feeling like you're not achieving them yet or you're not there, do not worry. I still have other options that you can work with me. I'd love to work with you one-on-one. I have different care plans for different sorts of goals. There's a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month care plan. But we go through all of this in a free online coaching call. So all you have to do is book in for that. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And we'll just go through that call and see what you might need, whether I can help you with that. I don't want to waste your time here. And what care plan is best suited for you. So yeah, that's where we're kind of at with the business at the moment. Anyway, this week for balance, we're actually on talking about blood sugar levels. When I start balance program, we talk a lot on mindset, and I really feel like that's very important when you're starting any sort of health journey. Mindset is so key, so I definitely would put that at the start of all of my programs. But now we're leaning into more of the science behind everything. I'm trying to build up a toolbox for my clients so that they can use this when they no longer have me at, right there to talk to. So blood sugars, that is what we're on about this week. And I just thought, why not bring this into today's episode and tell you some common mistakes in standard Western diets nowadays of what we're doing that is actually having really negative effects on our health. And I'm not just making this up. You can literally see this. We are having more autoimmune conditions occurring than ever before. Cancer, literally 1 out of 2 people will develop cancer in their lifetime, some sort of cancer in their lifetime. There's thyroid disorders that are happening. 1 out of 8 women are having thyroid disorders. More women are more prone to having Alzheimer's disease. And I am telling you this because I'm trying to get you to understand that it's our environment and it's our diets, and all of that has a play. They're all, which is why this information is just so important. So when we think about a standard Western diet, right, in the mornings for breakfast, like if you ever go to a breakfast buffet, what are you generally going to see there? You're going to see toast. We always will have bread. So we'll have lots of bread, pastries. There'll be like butters and spreads and stuff to put on the toast. Then after that, they'll have like a whole section of fruit. Then there'll be some yogurt, maybe some oats, like porridge. There might be some porridge there. And then you'll see maybe some eggs, scrambled eggs, or I know they have sausages, chorizo, like all that kind of stuff. That's what you generally tend to see at a standard Western diet buffet. But have you ever been to like the buffet section where they'll randomly have like, I don't know, like a rice dish? Like they'll have an Asian stir fry dish or an Asian rice dish, and you're always like, why is that there? Like, that is bizarre. Why is there a lunch style dish at a breakfast buffet? And it's because we are so conditioned to having high sugar content diets or high carb content diets in the mornings. And this is actually not what we want. We actually want to go, you know what, at those breakfast buffets, you're better off having that crazy Asian style dish, stir fry in the mornings. That's going to be your better dish to first have than to go and have eggs on toast. And I'll tell you why. So let's talk blood sugars. When we have carbs as our first meal of the day, remember, carbs get broken down into glucose. Glucose, when we have an influx of glucose, gives us a sugar spike. And I do want to tell you this, like this is normal for the body to do. So having a glucose spike here and there is okay, but having them consistently over time is not. And that's where we're seeing a lot of metabolic syndromes at the moment in today's society. And the reason why breakfast is so important to make sure you're not spiking there is because it sets you up for the rest of your day. So if you're fasting, you don't have to worry about the first meal in the morning because you're not having the first meal in the morning. Or if you are fasting and you're having breakfast in the morning, maybe you're finishing your meals later in the afternoon, what you want to make sure is that first meal, not only is it breaking your fast, but it sets you up for the rest of your day. So why is it that we are having something with so much carbs and that's going to spike our sugar and make us feel exhausted for the rest of the day, when in actual fact what we should be doing is having more of a savory meal and having lots of fiber in there. So having vegetables would be an amazing breakfast to have. Having what else? Like having something that is, protein. So have eggs, have scrambled eggs. Scrambled eggs are really good that you could have and then mix in a bunch of vegetables and stuff within there. But where we go wrong is having breads, what else? The sugary yogurt, and having oats and having oat milk and having cereals. They're the biggest no-nos to have in the mornings. So I really wanted you to change around your mentality of what is set as normal to have in the mornings, because that's going to help set you up for the rest of your day. I've talked about oats before and how, they're not the worst. And of course, oats, they come from nature's carbs. So they're not detrimental to your health, but I really advise that it shouldn't be the first meal that you're having that day. And if you're a person who loves your oats in the morning, I would advise you to get a glucose monitor or get a continuous glucose monitor, either the ones that you can prick your finger with or that you can wear on your arm, and just see when you have that breakfast, how it spikes your levels. See if it does, what it does. What you want to do is you want to test your levels before you have it. And you want to try to be in between 3.9 to about 5.5. And then when, I say an hour later, test your levels again, and you want to try and be as close as you can back to that first score. So if you test your levels before and you're at like a 4, and then you have oats, and then an hour later you're testing your levels and you're sitting at like a 6.5, that's a glucose spike. That's a sugar spike that we do not want in the mornings. But if you have tested your levels at 4 and an hour later tested your levels again and you're sitting at even like a 5.3, 5.4, that's not too bad. Like, that's good. We want to be as close as we can back to the score. So I would say, yeah, that's pretty good. I would say that's fine to have in the mornings. But it's where it spikes our levels so high where it's not good. And that's what's key here. That's what it is with oats and oat milk and stuff. It's spiking levels way too high. And what's more frustrating is we're seeing this as a health food, and we're seeing oats and oat milk as like, that's a healthy alternative. And people are being drilled this into, especially on social media, from like nutrition advisors or influencers. And they're having this oat milk thinking they're doing the right thing. But because they could be having it throughout their day, especially in their coffees, that means they're having those continuous spikes throughout their whole day, that their body is getting an influx of glucose, that then their pancreas has to quickly produce insulin to put this glucose into the cells. Their cells are no longer responding. Their cells are like, I've seen way too many glucose that day, I'm done. And that's when you become insulin resistant, and then that's when you are more likely to have things like PCOS or hormonal imbalances or an autoimmune disease. So this is why I love oats and I love oat milk, but we just can't have it all the time, and we definitely shouldn't be having it first thing in the morning for breakfast. I hate to burst so many people's bubbles that are like having oat milk, especially, and they love it and they're having it like first thing in the morning. I'm sorry, you just can't. The other thing is like my husband, like he wanted to do a fast the other day, and he has coffee, and he's tried having coffee with almond milk, and it doesn't, and he's tested his levels and it doesn't give him a glucose spike. But we didn't have any almond milk in the house, and he actually had oat milk. So he had the coffee and he had oat milk in it, and then he called me later and he said, I think I broke my fast. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you had your coffee, right? Like, that doesn't break it. And he said, yeah, but I couldn't find almond milk and I could only find oat milk. And you know how he knew without testing his levels? He said that he felt hungrier 2 hours later, and he never usually feels hungry at that time. And that's what it does. When you're having this burst of glucose and you're having this burst of a sugar spike, you'll feel hungrier sooner rather than later. Whereas if you have a really good balanced meal that doesn't give you, that doesn't give you this huge glucose spike, then that should be lasting you about 4 to 5 hours until you start to feel hungry again. So start to take note of that. If you're listening to this and you're like, how long does it take me to get hungry in between meals? Test yourself, have a meal, and then see how you're feeling compared to 2 hours time, or if you can hold out for 4 to 5 hours and not feel like you're starving. In 4 to 5 hours time, you might just feel a little bit peckish again. That's a good sign. If you can wait 4 to 5 hours, that's a good sign you're insulin sensitive, which means your cells are taking up that insulin. But if you're not, that's a good sign that you could be insulin resistant. Or your meals, they're not satisfying you enough. There's not enough healthy fats in there or enough protein to make you feel fuller for longer. It could be too much of a high carb food. And I love bringing up carbs, especially during that time in your nurture phase, the week before your period. but we can't do it all the time, and we do have to make sure that it's not carbs that are really refined and sugars and stuff as well. So anyway, that's just one of the first things about blood sugar. I just wanted to make sure that everyone starts looking at what are they having for breakfast? What's their first meal of the day? How do they want to set up their day? And actually even give yourself this question, why are you having breakfast? You know, are you hungry at that time? And what was the reasoning behind the food choice that you chose? Because a lot of times it's just kind of what we grew up with, like having toast. I grew up with having toast, like Vegemite on toast. That's what I'd always have. So that's all I've ever known. So I would have eggs on toast. I'd have avocado on toast. Like I love going out for breakfast and having avocado and feta and scrambled eggs on toast. But that toast there, what it's doing is it's raising our glucose so high, giving us such a spike that in 2 hours time, and it always happens, I always feel hungry straight away. Okay, another thing when it comes to blood sugar levels, we want to not have our last meal so close to bed. And this is something that I didn't quite discover until I had a glucose monitor on. Because what I was seeing, and it makes sense, but what I was seeing, I'll tell you why it makes sense, but what I was seeing is I'd have my meal and then I could see there was a bit of a spike, but it would come back down, but then I would go off to bed, get ready for bed, hop in bed, I'd fall asleep, and in the morning I'd feel really groggy and really tired, even though I might have had a good night's sleep. The kids didn't wake me up, everything's feeling good. Why was I feeling groggy after I had a pretty good night's sleep? And I'd look at my levels, and my levels would show that there were spikes in there as I was sleeping. Now, spikes while you're sleeping, they can be quite normal, because this could be the liver kind of dumping out some extra glucose and helping to it's homeostate the body again, so bring it back to homeostasis. So that's fine, that can be normal. But what I would see is like a huge spike or a huge downfall, so the other way, where my levels would lower quite a lot. And this is because you got to think, when you're having that meal just before you go to bed, your body's not prioritizing sleep and rest. Your body instead is prioritizing digesting that food. And you're not doing anything. You've just ate and now you've gone to bed, and the body's left with that glucose. You're not using it up as energy, so it's got to go find places to store it. And you've given your body that task to do during the sleep, which is the restoration part of your day. This is where you want to revitalize everything, you want to rejuvenate the body, and instead you've just given this task of trying to store this glucose somewhere. So that's why in the mornings you could be feeling quite groggy and stuff, because your body hasn't had enough time to rejuvenate, heal, and repair itself, because it's been too focused on trying to find places to store this glucose, when during the night it should have been emptying the glucose to help restore the body, if that makes sense. So that's why when people say eat your meal 2 to 3 hours before sleep, that's why they're saying it, because that meal too close to sleep will disrupt your sleep and you won't get good quality sleep. When you don't get good quality sleep, that's when you get more cortisol into the body. When you have more cortisol, that's when you shuts down your hormones, and that's when it leads to hormonal imbalances and autoimmune conditions and diseases. So it all makes sense, it all has a hand to play in this. And then the last thing I want to talk about around blood sugars is, if you don't have a glucose monitor, or you don't have something to prick your finger with to check your levels, and I know sometimes they can be quite pricey to try and find, that's okay. But what this is going to be like your little homework to do. If you're listening to this and you're really interested with how your body works and responds to food, this is what I advise you to do for a week. So get a food journal, write down what you're eating, and then an hour later, I want you to write down how you're feeling. Are you feeling more energized? Are you feeling full still? Are you tired? Are you grumpy? Are you happy? Write down everything you're feeling an hour later, and then do the same 2 hours later. And this is going to give you a really good indication as to what meals keep you full and satisfied for longer and what meals are possibly spiking your blood sugar levels. And if you're realizing that the toast that you're having with your eggs in the morning isn't actually keeping you fuller for 4 to 5 hours, then you would probably say, well, it's spiking my blood sugar levels too high. So maybe what you can try and do is take out the toast. Take out the toast and have scrambled eggs and add avocado in there. You could add even like pearl barley if you really want something, a carb dish in the morning. Add pearl barley because it's a slower releasing carb than what bread or rice is going to be. And it's got more fiber in there. So I bet that will keep you fuller for longer. Now, I know if you're like, what the hell? I can't have pearl barley for breakfast. That's so bizarre. This is where the mindset comes into play. This is where you have to remind yourself that that is just what a standard Western diet is. But if you see like a lot of the Asian diets out there, they will have like rice dishes and stuff for breakfast. And when you look at the statistics, like in Japan, there's, their health over there, their obesity rates are so much lower than everywhere else. And why is that? I would say it's got a lot to do with their lifestyle and a lot to do with their diet. Like in the mornings, they're not having what we have. They're not having a lot of stuff on toast, which is what we get brought up on. They're actually leaning into those rice dishes. And a lot of their food is a lot of fiber and a lot of whole food. They have a lot of whole food, and that's just what's different here. We have a lot more processed foods, especially cereals. I'm sure everyone knows about cereals, but if you are still having cereals to this day, that is something else that you really need to consider, especially if it's the first meal of your day. So with this, I recommend when you wake up in the mornings, if you're wanting to have breakfast, go for a savory dish. I want you to try something savory, not sweet, especially I forgot to even mention fruit, because I was saying like fruit's also like within the breakfast buffet. And I'm not saying fruit's bad. Please don't think that I'm like fruit's bad, you can't have fruit. But just for the first meal of your day, if you have fruit straight away, remember at the end of the day, fruit will get broken down into that glucose, and it's mostly sugar. It's natural sugars and it's good for us, but it will spike your blood sugar. So it will not keep you full for long. And then this is going to increase your chances of having that metabolic health syndrome. So try not to have fruit first thing in the morning. If you really love your fruit in the morning, have a savory dish before it. And this is another thing with smoothies, because I know everyone's getting into smoothies because they're the health drink and stuff. Have your smoothie, but I recommend having it more in the middle of your day. If we could live in the perfect ideal world, I wouldn't have a smoothie first thing in the morning. If you're a person that has a smoothie in the morning and you're feeling like it keeps you full and satisfied 4 to 5 hours after, well then keep going. You're probably putting enough healthy fats and proteins in there, and you're probably feeling like it's filling you up. So that's a possible situation for you. But I do want to remind everyone that everyone's bodies are different, and this is why I think a food journal comes really in handy. And you don't even have to get a proper journal. Just write down these notes on your phone. Have that smoothie in the morning, and if you're feeling hungry 2 hours later, I'm sorry, but that smoothie would have spiked your blood sugar levels. So yes, that is pretty much all. This is a short episode today. I just really wanted to talk about blood sugar levels a little bit. When we are fasting with blood sugar levels, I will mention that we want to keep our blood sugar levels between that 3.9 to 5.5 state on your glucose monitor. And a way to know that you might be dropping out of that is if you start to feel really tired, really dizzy, really lethargic, and you can't move muscles, or you just feel, and you could be really shaky and feeling really, really hungry, that's a good sign that your blood sugar levels are dropping too low. And if this is happening and quite often for you when you're trying to go into a fasted state, that's a really good indication that there's still a lot of toxicity in your body and you've still really got to work on your metabolic health, which means you have to still clean up your eating window and the foods that you're eating, because there's still a lot of toxins in your body and your body is not easily able to switch in and out of that fat burning and sugar burning mode just yet. So I advise you to just go back to your eating window and really clean up those foods that you're having in that time. But yes, if anyone has any more questions on this, as I said, if you want to work with me, you do have the option of getting a glucose monitor while you're working with me. And I do actually advise this because it gives us so much more insight into seeing what's happening with the foods that you're eating. I will get this information sent to me. You get an app and you get to see this information on your app. There are also things that you can have while you're fasting that actually won't spike your blood sugar levels. I've said it before, but minerals are really good to have. I recommend LMNT minerals. They have the sodium, potassium, magnesium in them. I'll leave a link to my favorite ones in the show notes below. But this is really helpful if you want to extend your fast, because it will help replenish those minerals that you might be losing during that fast, and you might be feeling just exhausted and depleted. And this will help boost your energy and make you feel not so exhausted anymore, because the reason you could be feeling exhausted is because of lack of these minerals. So I'll leave a link to those in the show notes below. I'll leave a link of if you want to work with me one-to-one and get on that CGM, so the glucose monitor. And yeah, I hope that was helpful and a few little tips there about blood sugar levels. And other than that, I'll love you and leave you and talk to you more in the next episode. So yeah, bye guys.